Erev Tov, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, therefore it must be the Rabbis Discuss. Whatever the rabbis decide they will discuss. Anyway, we've had a lot of requests over the years about studying Kabbalah. And I've always kind of shied away from it because Kabbalah can be kind of dangerous. So I kind of skirted away from it. And then over the past summer, Rabbi Ancel and myself were studying some of the text. And I thought, okay, well, you want it? Then we'll start with something that's relatively safe, which would be the Sefer Bahir. And before we get too far into this, let me bring on Rabbi Ancel, and you are on, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Okay, so as I was telling everybody, you and I studied the Bahir over the summertime, and yeah, I mean, you have a basically an introduction to
Yes.
this. Oh, before you get into that, let's check in the chat room. We have Simcha and Donald and Marshall so far. So, okay. So, do you want to go into your introduction now?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
most people wouldn't know what the Bahir is or what it means because the Bahir was written before the actual Zohar was written. So it is one of the oldest and one of the most important of the Kabbalistic texts. Until the Zohar was printed, the Bahir was the most influential source of Kabbalistic teachings. It is quoted in virtually every major Kabbalistic work, and it is cited in numerous times by Rabbi in his commentary on the Torah. It is also paraphrased and quoted many times in the Zohar. The name Bahir literally means brilliant or illumination, and it's derived from the first verse that is started in the Bahir, and it says, "And now they do not see the light. It is brilliant," which means Bahir, in the skies, which itself is a quote from the book of Job. The book is also called the Midrash of Rabbi Nehunya ben Hakana. Although the Bahir is a fairly small book, it only has, I believe, 12,000 words in all. It was very highly esteemed. It was first published in Provence in the year 1176, and most Kabbalists ascribe authorship of the Bahir to Rabbi Nehunya ben Hakana, who was a Talmudic sage of the first century. One of the most important concepts revealed in the Bahir are the 10 Sefirot. Also, we are going to discuss in the opening verses of Genesis and their true meaning, the mystical aspects of the Hebrew alphabet, a discussion of Gilgul, which means reincarnation, the 32 paths of wisdom, and Tzimtzum, which is among the other topics that we will discuss tonight. So now we can go into reading the first verses of the Bahir.
Okay, so Richard has joined us. Good to see you, Richard. And let me bring the Bahir up so you can you'll be able to read it here.
We should do small sections so people can understand it, because as we told the people that we read it 3 times until we understood it.
Well, started to understand it.
Yeah, or start to understand it. Okay, so this is the text of the Bahir. So Rabbi Nehunia ben Hakana said, one verse states, and now they do not see light. It is brilliant, Bahir, in the skies. Another verse, however, states, he made darkness his hiding place. But it's also written, cloud and gloom surrounded him. This is an apparent contradiction. A third verse comes in to reconcile the two. It is written, even darkness is not dark to you. Night shines like day. Light and darkness are the same.
Okay, now this is where on our second reading on this that we started to discuss this whole thing about light and darkness are the same.
Yes.
Okay, and I was making this analogy from basically that I got from Rabbi Manis Friedman talking about, okay, the story goes that Rabbi Friedman's granddaughter was visiting, and she came up to him, and she had a baby doll, and the doll's arm had come off, and she brought it to her grandfather. And he made a big deal about it. Oh my goodness, this is so terrible. It must feel so bad for this poor baby that its arm is no longer attached to it and stuff. And she kind of looked at him kind of odd, and she says, it's just a toy. So he goes on to say, well, okay, so this looks like an arm, and it looks like a baby, but it's not an actual real arm or a real baby. It looks like it, but it really isn't. He says this is the same thing when we're talking about the attributes of God, when we say things like, God saw and stuff like that. So when we're talking about seeing, we're saying, okay, God sees, God has eyes, okay? We have eyes, but they're not the same as God's eyes, okay? So God has made us in his image, but, we're limited. We're limited. We don't have true eyes. God has true eyes. So when we get into this and we start talking about even darkness is not light to you, night shines like day, light and darkness are the same. And we started discussing this, and I was bringing up the point that, well, if God has true eyes, he can actually see in every kind of light. He can see throughout the spectrum, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so even darkness to him, he's able to see. He's able to see as clear as it is day because he can see through all the different spectrums.
That's why it says night shines like day.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of like, like now we don't really have a good approximation of this. The closest that we have would be kind of like the military has their night vision. And we've all seen, videos of what it looks like night vision. You can see, it's not great, but you can see, but you get the idea that, that God can see. I mean, even some of the cameras that can record in infrared and stuff like that. I mean, God can see through all the spectrums. He can see through infrared. He can see through X-ray. He can see through, all the different kinds of light. So therefore, there really is no darkness for God.
That is correct.
Okay.
So Rabbi Berachia said, it is written in Genesis, the earth was chaos. So chaos he named as Tohu, Tohu. And desolation he named Bohu, Bohu. So what is the meaning of the word was was in the verse? This indicates that chaos existed previously and already was. So, what is chaos? Something that confounds people.
So there's a little bit of delay here. So
That's okay.
yeah, I'm just letting the people know that these pauses in here is because there's a delay because I have it up on my screen and Rabbi Ancel is reading it on my screen, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer for it to click over on his screen.
Okay. So, what is desolation? Bohu. It is something that has substance. This is the reason that it's called bohu, that is bohu. It is in it. So, why does the Torah begin with letter Bet?
Well, before we get into that, I want to go back to this concept of chaos.
Okay.
Okay, so in the in the Torah, it talks about we often refer to darkness as choshech, right?
Yeah, Moshe.
Choshech can actually act. It can also mean chaos.
Yes.
Okay, so when we're reading in Bereshit that the whole everything was in darkness or it was in chaos. Okay, and I was saying, okay, chaos cannot exist for a long period of time. Order has to come from chaos. Chaos will eventually morph into order somehow because the universe does not like chaos. The universe, as God created it, the universe likes some kind of order to it. And I was making a reference to this with the Japanese game Go or Ego, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a played on a board that is 19 by 19 square, and within those squares there are let me see if I 361, I think 361 intersections on that board. Now, when you go in and you start playing the Go game, basically you have one person has a stone. They use stones, and the stones are white on one side, black on the other side. One has the white, one has the black, and as the game progresses, you capture, you remove, you create chains and stuff like that. What happens with this game is it starts out in chaos. But as the game goes on, the longer and longer that the game goes on, the more order that it takes on. The board takes on order because the universe does not like chaos. It will eventually come to some state of order. And as the game goes on, they actually have said, the Japanese have said in all of history, as long as this game has been around, which is a very long time, no two Go games have ever been the same. But the one thing that's always the same in a Go game is that order comes out of chaos.
You remove so many stones, and all of a sudden you see like it makes sense. So it's
Yeah, and as you're going along and you're capturing stones and you start to see patterns and you can see basically what the other person is trying to accomplish, and all of a sudden things are starting to take order and you can come in and you can kind of try to block them from what they're trying to do and so on and so forth. But the main thing is that
it starts to make sense.
it has to come out of it has to take on some kind of order. So we were, let's see, I kind of stopped
So
us
I
right
said,
here.
so why does the Torah begin with the letter Bet? So it says, in order that it begin with a blessing, Beracha. How do we know that the Torah is called a blessing? Because it is written in Deuteronomy, the filling in God's blessing, possessing the sea and the south.
Yeah, this was something that really got us when we, oh, well, actually got
Yeah,
me when we first started talking about what the sea and the south, the sea and the south. Okay, well, we understand where the sea is. I mean, they must be talking about the Mediterranean. So the sea is to the west. But what's in the south? Why does it why does it refer to the south? And we get in a little farther, we get a little more clarification on this.
so so the seas actually is nothing other than the Torah, because it is written, it is wider than the sea in Job. So, what is the meaning of the verse, the filling is God's blessing? This means that wherever we find the letter bet, it indicates a blessing. Therefore, it's written in Genesis, in the beginning, which is the Bereshit, God created the heaven and the earth. Bereshit is Bet Reshit. So it begins with the letter Bet.
Yeah.
So
So
the
we
word
okay. So
beginning,
wait. So when we are looking at this, what we're seeing is a bereshit, which we pronounce as one word, can actually be pronounced as two.
Bereshit, yeah.
Bereshit, which means two beginnings. It can actually
Yeah,
be interpreted as two beginnings.
correct. So the word beginning, Reshit, is nothing other than wisdom, because it's written in Psalm 111, the beginning is wisdom, the fear of God. And that's where I ran in with a problem, not a problem, a question to Aryel. If God is so good, why do we have to fear him? So we're going to learn further on.
Yeah,
Wisdom,
we actually spent quite a bit of time talking about that.
yeah. So wisdom is a blessing because it's written, and God blessed Solomon. It is furthermore written in Kings, and God gave wisdom to King Solomon.
Yeah, this was another one that kind of got us. And I think we lost Rabbi Ancel. Are you still there?
I lost you.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of ducked out on there for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can still see the text? Are you still seeing the text, or do I need to bring it up again? Ancel? Okay, so while we're waiting for him to reconnect, I'll go and continue. This resembles a king who marries his daughter to his son, which was kind of what? Gives her to him at the wedding and says to him, do with her as you desire. You back with us, Ancel? Okay, so we know that, okay, the Torah says, brothers and sisters are not supposed to get married. So why is it actually saying this in here? And we say, okay, well, let's go back to the Torah and find out why. Typically, when a man, when his son or his daughter takes a spouse, that spouse is considered a child of that man. So if it's marries his daughter to a man, then that man becomes his son, and vice versa. His son marries a woman, then that woman becomes his daughter. Are you back with us, Ancel? Oh, Skype is such a lovely thing when it works. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. Ancel, are you back with us? Okay, so I'm going to see if we can reconnect with Ancel. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works. That's all I got to say. And we'll go with that. Oh, it seems like Rabbi Ancel his internet is down. Oh, lovely. Okay, so we'll wait for him to call back in. Oh, there we go. Okay. There he is.
Hello?
Hey.
I'm here.
I guess so. Okay.
What's going on?
Hey, put the screen back up here for you. So while you were gone, I don't know if you can see the screen yet or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did the first paragraph. I talked about this, where we were talking about, the daughter and the son, and how, when a child gets married, that spouse automatically becomes that father's child.
Yeah. Okay, so we do number 4.
We are.
So how do we know that the word beracha usually translates as a blessing? It comes from the word baruch, which means blessed. Perhaps it comes from the word berech, which means knee. Because it's written in Isaiah, for to me shall every knee bend, beracha, can therefore mean the place to which every knee bends.
So this might actually be a clue to fear of God being the beginning of wisdom. Maybe. Still with us? And there we go again. So obviously, the internet is not great down there in the Dominican Republic tonight.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay. What I was saying is
what
that
example does this? Okay.
I was going to say that this may be an example. This may be a clue as to that statement that that fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, because every knee shall bend.
Yep.
Okay.
So people want to see a king, but they don't know where to find his house. So first,
they ask.
No, it's the delay.
Yeah.
First they ask, where is the king's house? Only then can they ask, where is the king? So therefore it's written, for to me shall every knee bend, even the highest. Every tongue shall swear. So Rabbi Rehumai always expounds on these meanings. What is the meaning of the verse? The filling of is God's blessing, possessing the sea and the south. This means wherever we find the letter bet, it is blessed. This is the filling referred to in the verse, the filling is God's blessing. From there, it nourishes those who need it. It was from this feeling that God sought advice. What example does this resemble? A king wanted to build up his palace among great cliffs. He mined into the bedrock and uncovered the great spring of living water. The king then said, "Since I have flowing water, I will plant a garden. Then I will delight in it, and so will all the world."
So he was basically talking
Therefore,
about
it's
Gan
written in
Eden here.
Proverbs. Go ahead.
I said basically he's talking about Gan Eden.
Yeah. So therefore, it's written in Proverbs, it was with him as a craftsman. I was his delight for a day of frolicking before him at every time. So they were talking about Gan Eden.
Yeah,
The Torah is saying, for 200 years I was in the bosom of
2,000
the
years.
Blessed Holy One as
2,000
his
years.
delight.
2,000
As
years.
2,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said 200? Sorry.
Yeah.
So therefore, the verse says, a day, each day of the Blessed Holy One is 1,000 years. Because it's written in Psalm 90, 1,000 years in your eyes is as but yesterday when it passed. And Aryel and I were discussing this because a lot of people say that the world is billions years old, but in God's eyes, it could be yesterday.
Of course, too, when we talk about, okay, the world was created in 7 days. Well, a day is, for God, 1,000 years is a day. So basically, we could actually say, and that's why we actually say, when we're talking about the years, 5782, right? 5783, right?
Yep.
That we say 5783 and 7 days of creation, right? 6 days of creation. Because we don't know how long that was. Because our time and God's time are not the same thing, as we just read here, that, 1,000 years. Well, if that's the case, and we say, okay, well, it took 6 days of creation plus one Shabbat. When did time actually, as we know it, actually begin? Now, prior to that, were the 6 days actually days? Or were they, as it says here, 1,000 years each, which would be 6,000 years prior to the first Sabbath? Or does that include the first Sabbath, which would make it 7,000 years at that point? Or was it even longer?
We don't know.
We don't know. That's why we say, it is this year and 7 days.
Yeah. So from then on, it is a time. And the verse states, the rest is for the world. It is thus written in Isaiah, I will breathe out my praise. So what is the meaning of praise?
You're kind of missing something here.
Psalm, a
Hang
praise
on.
of David.
Ancel.
Yeah.
So you're kind of missing. Are you able to see? You able to see that part right there?
Oh, I said through my nose for you.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, I just want to make sure that we're
So
getting
what
the
is
whole
the
thing.
meaning of? So what is the meaning of praise? It's written in Psalm, a praise of David. I will raise you high, my God, O King, and I will bless your name for the world and forever. So what is this a praise? Because I will raise you high. And what is the elevation? Because I will bless your name for the world and forever.
Okay,
So
so
what is a
let's
blessing? It
okay,
can
so
be
let's
explained
let's
with an
let's stop
example.
there for a minute.
Okay,
Let's stop.
so
I want to see what's
yeah.
going on in the chat room because we're still kind of getting things loaded back onto the computer. I don't have the two big screens right now. I just have one, so I have to keep flipping back and forth so I can see what's going on. So let's see what we got going on in the chat room.
Are they
Okay.
having a hard time, or I don't know?
Yeah. Well, let's see. You're supposed to love God. Okay. So Donald says, so why are areas for romance usually dark? In that a is that a biblical thing? And then he goes on to say, I thought we were supposed to love God, but not fear Him. Actually, according to the Torah, we're supposed to do both, right? Love and
Correct.
fear.
Well, this was my question, and I've always had, a thing going about that, the fear of God, because that almost reminds me of not of Judaism, reminds me of Catholicism or Christianity, because that's all they talk about is fear of God,
Yeah,
of
yeah. And
their God.
I made the point
So,
when we were talking about this that I don't actually interpret this as fear as what we
so we'll
kind of
continue with 6.
we
So,
don't.
what is a blessing?
Okay, can I let me finish?
Yeah, we said it's not fear.
We said it's not fear
You were talking
as
about your
we're
father.
interpreting it as we read it. It's actually it's like, and I made the allegory that it's like me and my father, of blessed memory, when he was around.
Yeah,
My fear of my father was my fear of disappointing him. I didn't want to do
that's more
anything that would
respect.
disappoint him. And you could say that was basically that is fear.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we go on?
So, what is a blessing? Yeah. So, what is a blessing? It can be explained with an example. A king planted trees in his garden. It may rain and water them, and the ground may be wet and provide them with moisture, but still he must water them from the spring. So therefore it's written in Psalm 111, the beginning is wisdom, the fear of God, good intelligence to all who do them, his praise endures forever. So you may think that it lacks something. It is therefore written, his praise endures forever. Rabbi Amorai sat and expounded on this. So, what is the meaning of the verse, the filling of God's blessing, possessing the sea and the south? Moses was saying, if you follow my decrees, you will inherit both this world and Olam Haba and the next world. The world to come is likened to the sea, because it's written in Job, it is wider than the sea. The present world is referred to as the south. It is thus written in Joshua, give me a blessing, for you have set me in the land of the south. Therefore, give me springs of water. So the Targum translates this, behold, the earth is the south.
You know,
So why did God add the letter Hey to
hang on,
Abraham?
wait,
Yep,
hang
yep,
on.
yep.
Okay, now this is exactly how we did it when we were talking, when we were studying. Something just suddenly dawned on me that we said the present world is referring to the south. What is south of Israel?
Yep.
Well, what is south of Israel? Egypt, right? Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
Okay. What was happening in Mitzrayim? That was the exile. We were
Correct.
we were out of the land. So this kind of it just snapped into place. And again, this is why you study it over and over again, is because the more you study it, the more things just kind of click into place. It's that the present
More
whole
you get to
world is
understand
referred
it.
to as the South, which means that we are not in our own land. We are not in the land we are intended to be in. Our intention
We are
is,
Angolas.
Yeah, I mean, the whole world is goalless. Even Eretz Israel is goalless to the upper realms, which is where we should
Correct.
be. So the present world being referred to the south makes perfect sense now to me now because the whole world is goalless.
Yes.
Ha ha.
Mm. So why did God add the letter Hey to Abraham's name rather than any other letter? This was so that all parts of a man's body should be worthy of life in the world to come, which is
Which is likened to the sea.
to the extent that we can express it. The structure was completed in Abraham. Regarding this structure, it is written in Genesis, for in the form of God, he made the man. So the numerical value of Abraham is 248, the number of parts in a man's body.
Okay, so,
So now you'll see, we're getting into some
okay.
numerology.
So, this one we spent a lot of time on. Okay, I actually wrote a paper on this. We said, okay, what is it? What is it? The 248. What is it? The number of the 204? The 248 are basically all the parts of a man's body. Okay, but it wasn't until he had the hey added to his name that he became a complete man. But there was something else
Correct.
going on here, and it was bugging me. 248, 248. That number has a significant value. And as I was, as we were looking at this, I was going, okay, there's something going on here. And then I actually wrote a paper on this, which is called basically Abraham Avinu equals 248 in the Gematria, as we just read in the Bahir, which equals E8 physics. Okay, so I'm going to read this. So, in our study of the Bahir, with my esteemed study partner, Chacham Asher ben Mordechai, we found out that when Abraham's name was changed to Avram's name was changed to Abraham, the significance was that his name now included the 48 structures of the human body, giving him complete mastery of his body, thus enabling him to have children. We'll leave Sarah's name changed to, and the significance to another article. But however, I propose that there is a deeper significance to Abraham's name change. We already know that the 248 Gematria also parallels the 248 positive mitzvot, as well as the 248 structures of the human body.
Correct.
As the sages tell us, that all was created for Bnei Yisrael, which begins with Avraham Avinu. As we have learned from our study of Bereshit, bringing from Tohu the Bohu, which we'll get into a little more, giving it substance but no attributes. From there, God spoke and gave it a name, and once it had its name, it gained its attributes. Therefore, Avraham was Bohu until God added the Hey to his name and as it says in Shemot 17:3, and Abraham fell on his face. I think that should have been Bereshit 17:3, and Abraham fell on his face, and God talked to him, saying is very significant here. Neither shall thy name anymore be called Avram, but thy name shall be Avraham. Thus, Avram equaled 243 to Avraham equaling 248, giving Avraham mastery.
Which made him complete.
Pardon?
Which made him complete.
Giving him mastery over all the parts of his body, enabling him to have children with Sarah. However, did God have more in mind than just enabling Abraham to have mastery over his body? Is there a deeper meaning to this reading, leading us to a better theoretical understanding of the universe? In theoretical physics, there is a theory called E8. That's capital E sub 8, which simply explained, very simply explained, is E8 attempts to describe all known fundamental interactions of physics and to stand as a possible theory of everything. Now, this is paraphrased from the explanation of from Dr. Anthony Garrett List. Amazing man who put this together, or put this theory, or not the theory, but this writing together that he was talking about. There is a two-dimensional graphic representation of what's called the E8 lattice. You should look at it. It's actually, the E8 lattice is actually quite stunning when you look at it. It's almost the perfect geometrical pattern. In fact, it's actually been called the perfect geometrical pattern. And has been called one of the most beautiful mathematical representations ever, and I have to agree with that. It took a group of MIT professors working 4 years with a crazed supercomputer to make this representation, which is, in fact, is an 8-dimensional object. So when you look at the E8 lattice, you're looking at a 2-dimensional representation of a 8-dimensional figure, object. Okay, and there's more to this, and we'll get into this a little bit later about dimensions and stuff like that. All the points and the intersections on the lattice, as Dr. List has found, have a relationship between elementary particles, forces, and elements in the universe. However, there is a problem with this. Since science has only found 224 elements, the lattice predicts that there are 248 elements paralleling the 248 points on the lattice. Dr. List proposes that there are 24 additional elements, elementary particles, that are yet to be discovered. And you will find some very interesting articles coming out just recently that are actually pointing in that direction, new elements being found. Theoretically right now. He may have a valid hypothesis since the other elements and forces and interactions can be found in the lattice itself. For example, the lattice can show that photons interacting with leptons will produce electrons, just as happens in the real world. So there are things that are paralleling. They can actually prove that things that are found on the lattice are actually happening in the physical world. Additionally, the Hebrew word for particle is helkik.
Yes.
Which also has a gematria of 248. Coincidence? I think not. So, the question is now restated. Was God's intent to just enable Abraham to have mastery over his body, or was God pointing to the physical blueprint of the universe, which was created for Bnei Yisrael by changing Avram to Avraham and the gematria of 248? Will Mashiach be the one who will finally define the undiscovered 24 missing elements, giving us, as Dr. Lisk puts it, an exceptionally simple theory of everything? Okay. So Dallas says 248 parts? Question mark. Yes. Okay. So let's get back over to the Bahir. Well, let's see, where are we at on our time? We're at our halfway point. Okay, so let's move away from the Bahir for a moment. Let's take a little break so that you have time to kind of wrap your head around all this stuff we've been firing at you right now, kind of rapid fire at you.
Yeah, but you know, they have to understand that the first time, and we may repeat it because it's worth repeating to understand it, because we're going to be talking about actually the creation of the world, and the ten Sefirot, the meanings, and the world to come. So yes, it's going to be hard at the beginning, and
Well,
they should.
that's one of the things that we talked about when we first studied this. We went through
Yeah,
it the
we should
first
make
time.
note. They should make notes and have questions, and the next time we
Yeah,
continue, should have questions, or send them to me or to Aryel and try to answer them.
or put them in the
It's,
chat room.
I know it's not going to be easy, but it's the Bahir is the easiest section to study.
Yeah, and what we did notice when we were going through this, we went through it the first time, and we kind of went, wow, this is pretty quick. It's a pretty quick read. I mean, it's not really 1,200 words.
12,000 words.
Yeah, so we said okay, and I made the point that, and Rabbi Ancel agreed that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov actually talked about this, and when he was talking about when you're trying to study, that you should read the text 3 times. You read it the first time just for the plain simple meaning of the text. You come back and you read it for an understanding of what you already read. When you come back to the third time, you come back and you read it to find the inner meanings of it. Hence why, as we went from first to second to third, and you can see now even the fourth, where things started to click for me, as far as the South being exile, goalless for the whole world, you can see we're still learning, and we're on the fourth reading of this.
Yep.
So I'm going to turn you down for a moment.
Okay.
And I'm going to, let's do this. We're going to take our 6-minute break, and when we come back, we'll find out more about what is going on with the universe and Tohu and Bohu. We'll be back in 6. Stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. So, I'd like to get some feedback from the chat room. If this is interesting, if you find it interesting, if you find it not interesting, or whatever. Ancel, you are back with us.
I am. And now, like I was saying to Aryel, if you find that it is difficult, it was difficult for us the first time around. If you find it too difficult or to some people would be boring, just say so. You can tell us what you want to discuss. But Aryel said that you guys always wanted to study the Zohar. There's two sections. We can do the Bahir and we can do Sefer Yetzirah. But to go any further, I would say no.
No, I would think that you would need to sit down with somebody who is well versed in it to guide you in it. I mean,
It's not easy.
yeah, I
It's
mean
easy to
you've studied the Kabbalah's text for how many years?
15.
Yeah,
And,
I've been
and,
studying it
and
for close to 20 years, and you and I have gotten together and come up with new thoughts between the two of us.
yeah. And unfortunately, I fell into the hole of mistakes. And I got into the numerology part of it because I enjoyed it. And somebody likes mathematics. Yeah, I would like to do it. But it's destructive. I learned and I made a mistake and I lost strength because of it. Because doing the wrong numerology, you can read people's birthdays and dates and this, and it gets you into a lot of. It got me into trouble. I lost my friends. I lost 4 friends because somebody asked me to read his birthday. I did, and his birthday showed me, and he I didn't want to say what it was, but he forced me to tell him, and I told him that his birthday, the numbers, and added up that in 3 days his father would die, and his father died 3 days later.
Yeah.
Those 4 guys never spoke to me again.
Okay,
So
so in the chat room,
yeah.
Marshall says this is one of the best sessions. And Donald says, I agree. So obviously we're
So we
on the
can
right track
continue
for
because
some.
it gets more into it, but please ask questions because, like I said, the first time around, you will see that eventually when we finish, because it's only 12,000 words, you will ask for us to do it again because the second time around, your eyes will be wide open and you will understand more. And the third time, it's going to be even much easier. When Aryel and I are doing it the fourth time, and we're still finding out other stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that this is well, you and I together have done this 4 times now, and we're still
Yes,
drawing new things. And you and I, apart, separately, have studied this text how many multiple times.
multiple
And
times.
some of the things that you and I came together and discovered between the two of us were completely different than what we had discovered separately. Hence
Studying
why
the
it's
Torah is
important to
one
have
thing.
somebody to study with.
Studying the Torah is one thing. Kabbalah really gets into the words like Bereshit, why letter Bet, why letter Hey to Abraham, and to understand why, because you know that God told Abraham to add, that he's going to add the letter H, and from now on he's going to be called Abraham. But most people don't know why. So Kabbalah gets into it and tells you why it is, because his name was not, he was not a complete human being until he had the Hey and he had the number 248.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's the Kabbalah is basically trying to understand what is not understandable. It's by trying to understand the mind of God, how it works in this world and the world beyond Olam Haba. And
Because the Torah begins. It says, "Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz," with a bet, with a beat. Why not the letter A, Aleph?
yeah, and
So
why is the bet larger than all the other letters?
because now we find out that with bet it's Baruch. We say Baruch Hashem. Everything is blessed, blessed. So Bereshit, it became a blessing. The
So
bet is the
we could
beginning of any blessing word.
we could actually say it was the first blessing.
Yep, it
Bereshit.
was.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
the beginning, Bereshit means in the beginning, at the start of this world.
yeah. So let's get back over here to the Bahir.
Okay,
Excuse me.
okay. So, what was the meaning in Deuteronomy? The filling is God's blessing, the sea in the south. He shall inherit it. That's the Yerusha. That's like almost that's we say it in Yiddish Yerusha. That means your inheritance that your parents, when they go to God, they leave their children. It would have been sufficient if the verse said inherit, rush, the sea and the south. But this comes to teach us that God must be included in the word. So the YI is God's name. So so what does this resemble? A king had two treasuries, and he hid one away. After many days, he said to his son, "Take what's in these two treasuries." And the son replied, "Perhaps you're not giving me all that you have hidden away." The king said, "Take everything." So it's written, the sea and the south, he shall inherit, and he shall inherit it. Inherit God is YHR, rush. So everything will be given to you if only you kept my ways. So this is why they said, if all of Israel would keep one Sabbath, Moshiach will come. If you keep my ways, if you keep not my commandments, my wishes and my commandments and everything else, Moshiach will come.
Yeah. So the sea, which represents the Torah,
Yep.
which basically represents Olam Haba,
Yes.
and then the south, meaning this corporal world, this goalless that we're in right now, so that God is saying you can have it all. You can have this world, and you can have the world beyond.
That is true. So Rabbi Ban said, so what is the meaning of the verse in Proverbs? I was set up from eternity, me'olam. That's eternity, from a head before the earth. So what is the meaning of from eternity, which in Hebrew is me'olam? This means that it must be concealed, helam, from the world. It's in Ecclesiastes, it's written, he has also placed the world, haolam, in their hearts, so that they should not find out the work that God has done from the beginning to the end. Do not read haolam, the world, but he-elam, concealment. The Torah said, I was first, so that I might be the head of the world. So therefore it's written, I was set up from eternity, from a head. So you may think that the earth was before it. So therefore it's written before the earth.
Yeah. So the Torah actually existed before the world.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and it says, going back here, thus it read, he has also placed the world, haolam, in their hearts, so that they should not find out the work that God has done from the beginning to the end.
Because we don't know how God created the world. Well, it's written, but do we really understand it?
I mean, what the, when the soul leaves the goof,
Yeah.
it basically has the knowledge of everything.
Yes, it's the same thing that it says that a baby, when it's in the mother's womb, sees the beginning and the end of its life. When it takes his first breath, he forgets it.
Yeah, and so in here it says that, and exactly when it takes its first breath, and if you know the old tale that little divot under your nose, it's supposed to be where the angel touched you so that it would seal your lips so you wouldn't remember this stuff, which
Correct.
goes back to what it says here that it's concealed, elam, concealed. And
later on we'll find out is that we're not supposed to dwell on it.
Right. Yeah.
It's not for us to understand.
Right. That's and again, it's beyond our understanding.
Correct.
And again, this is going back to this whole idea of studying it 3 times and even this 4th time coming up with new understandings and stuff like that, is that and as it's been explained, the rabbis have told us that a man can only see to his own level.
Yes, well, that's why they say that you shouldn't study the Zohar before the age of 40, because they figured by the end of age of 40 you have attained enough maturity to be able to read it and to understand it.
Well, and you've gained enough knowledge in the Torah.
Yep.
And again, that's again why we read the Torah year after year after year after year. And as Donald pointed out in the chat room, he says, each time we read it, we gain new knowledge because we rise to another level. We're beyond that. And again, going back to one of my favorite subjects, which is theoretical physics, which talks about the being able to see at our level and not being able to see beyond it. And this is, again, look, this is something that, just recently came into my mind was, okay, we're looking at this and we're actually, one of the things that it dawned on me is that when it says in Torah, you're not able to see beyond your own level. And I'm thinking, okay, that correlates with what we actually have in this corporal existence.
Yeah.
We live in a three-dimensional world, correct?
No.
Actually, in this
There is a
corporal
fourth
existence, we have three dimensions.
Correct.
Okay. However, we cannot see in three dimensions. We can only see in two dimensions. So, what I mean by that is, let's say, let me get something. Okay. Have this little what do you call it, coaster. Okay? And you can see by my hand, it's about 4 inches by 4 inches. Okay? Now, if I take this coaster and I put it up to the camera, it looks huge. It looks a lot bigger than 4 by 4. But as I pull it away, it gets smaller. You know that this is only 4 by 4. But because we're seeing this, we can mentally figure that this is not getting bigger and smaller. It's just moving away from us in our two-dimensional space. We can conceive a third dimension. We cannot actually see it. Therefore, somebody in the fourth dimension would only be able to see in 3 dimensions. A man cannot see beyond his own level. Just as the Torah tells us. That man,
So the higher dimension, you still go back to the one before.
Yeah,
So the fourth dimension can only see the third dimension. You cannot see 4 dimensions beyond that person.
right, yeah. Yeah, so we are confined by our own level. Same thing with the Torah. As we study and we diligently study, we get better understanding, which means that we've risen to a level. So, when we come in, we read the Torah again, those things just kind of snap into place. I've read this thing how many times, and all of a sudden, it just clicked into place. Why didn't I see it before? We weren't at that level. So, I'll get this turned over to the next page. Boy, this session is really going fast tonight.
So it's written in Genesis, the beginning. In the beginning, created God the heavens and the earth. So what is the meaning created? He created everything that was needed for all things. And then God, only after that is it written the heaven and the earth. Because in the beginning, it was only a plan.
Right.
I'm trying, but that's what we found out in reading it again and again. So
Yeah, it's only in
God had a
potential at
plan.
that point.
So, yeah, for a heaven and an earth. But only when he created it, it became something of substance. It became heaven and earth with substance.
Right, exactly. That's what we call the what's beyond Keter. Well, beyond Keter is Ancel, which is the place where God exists, where everything lies in potential. It's only when it comes from
Ain't so. I mean, there's no end.
Right. Yeah.
Ad infinity.
Yeah. So in this next section, we're actually going to get into this a little deeper now.
Yeah. So what is the meaning of the verse of ecclesiastic? So I always choke on that word. Also, one opposite the other was made by God. So what is the opposite to the other? So he created desolation, which is bohu, and placed it in peace. And he created chaos, which is tohu, and placed it in evil. So therefore, desolation is in peace, because it's written, he makes peace in the high places.
Again, we have a delay.
Yeah.
Has it flipped over yet?
So this teaches that Michael, the prince to God's right, is water and hail, while Gabriel is the prince of God's left, which is fire. So the two are reconciled by the Prince of Peace. So this is the meaning of the words. He makes peace in high places. So
Okay.
how do we know?
So hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So we just read in here the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace is not what the Christians have been saying. We know from the Bahir that the Prince of Peace is God himself.
Yep. So how do we know that chaos is an evil? Because it's written in Isaiah, he makes peace and creates evil. So how does this come out? Evil is from chaos, while peace is from desolation. He does create a chaos and place it in evil, because it's written, he makes peace and creates evil. He creates desolation and places it in peace, because it's written, he makes peace in high places. So Rabbi Bond explained it. So what is the meaning of the verse in Isaiah? He forms light and creates darkness. Light has substance. Therefore, the term formation is used with regard to it.
Okay, so I want to stop right here. Okay. So
Okay.
this is light has substance. Okay. Now there's a famous physics experiment that said, okay, well, what is light? Is it a wave or is it a particle? It is a wave that acts like a particle. Okay. Hence, it has substance. Dark does not have that. Okay.
So darkness has no substance, and therefore, with regard to it, the term creation is used. It is similarly written in Amos, he forms mountains and creates winds.
Okay, so let's stop here for a minute. That we have to make a distinction between the darkness that they're talking about here in the Bahir and the darkness that we read about in the 10 plagues in Shemot, in Exodus.
Yep.
During the Exodus. The darkness in that plague actually did have substance. So it was a completely different darkness than what we're talking about here. Because I said that darkness was oppressive. People could not even move in it.
In general terms, darkness.
Yes.
That one was a plague.
That was a plague, yeah.
So plagues do have substance. So another explanation is this. Light was actually brought into existence because it's written in Genesis, and God said, let there be light. Because light existed before, like I said, in God's plans, but when he created it, it became that it had substance.
Well, and that's the key thing, is because it said that he said.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it cannot be brought into existence unless this thing is made. So when he made the light, it became something with substance. The term formation is therefore used.
Yeah, so again, this whole concept of God said. God said this, God said that, it happened, and God saw it and said it was good, okay? God, said let there to be light. God said, and again, we go back to this whole thing with physics that, and string theory and beyond string theory into E8 and stuff that, the theory on string theory is basically that when you get down to its base, that everything is formed by a string. The string, the vibration of the string determines what that is going to be. Gold vibrates at a different frequency than lead does. Okay, so again, God said, when you speak, you are creating waves. So again, this is significant because, what he's doing is by saying that he is giving it its attributes by changing its frequency.
So, in the case of darkness, however, there was no making, only separation and setting aside. It is for this reason that the term created, which in Hebrew is bara, is used. It has the same sense as in the expression, the person became well. So, why is the letter bed closed on all its sides and open in the front? This teaches us that it is the house, the Beit, which is in Hebrew, of the world. God is the place of the world, and the world is not his place.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that we stop here.
Yep.
Because I want to be, we're going to get into the Aleph Bet at this point, and I want to be able to bring those up because you and I, we brought up
the letters.
We brought up the Paleo Hebrew, we brought up the current the Davidic Hebrew, and the Hebrew script to understand what they were actually saying as far as the alphabet. And I want to be able to bring those up and be able to show them to you, and I didn't have time to set that up for tonight. So I'm going to suggest that.
Okay, I have another question to the group.
Okay.
Do you think it would help if we did this again the next time? See if you understand. I'm not saying that you don't understand, but if you really get into it, because you said you like it, I understand. So did Aryel and I. But if not, we'll just continue. And you want to, we'll do the Bahir second time. No problem. I will take your advice.
Okay, so you can contact us on Facebook, or you can. Marshall says yes. Donald says yes. What about Richard? What about Simcha? Don't be afraid. Let us know what you think. Unless you both fell asleep and we just kind of bored you into falling asleep.
Okay.
But Marshall and Donald say yes. Yeah, they want to go through it again. So I guess we'll go through it again on the next session. Well, do you think we should go through the whole thing first and then go back and go through it again? I'm thinking. As I was saying,
yeah.
Do you think we should go through the whole thing? Richard said yes. Do you think we should go through the whole Bahir first and then come back and go through it once more? Or do you think we should just go through this section again and then move on?
Either way, it's okay with me.
You're a lot of help.
No, but it's up to them.
Okay, I think they would actually get more out of it if we go through it first, just like we did. Go through it first.
Okay.
And then come back and then go through it once again. And Marshall says yes. Everybody says yes. Everybody wants yes. Okay.
I'm for it.
Okay.
All right, people.
Okay, let's see. Donald says this section and repeat it. Okay, so Marshall and Richard, do you go along with what Donald says, or do you think we should go through the whole thing first and then come back and redo it once again? We'll see what kind of answers we get here.
Okay.
So just waiting to see. Okay, so let me I'll go back over here to the Bahir and bookmark where I was, so I don't forget. There we go. I'll go ahead and close that for now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. Marshall says the whole thing, and then repeat.
All right.
Like
I said, it's not long, so.
Okay. Well, we'll just we'll flip a coin and decide.
Okay.
So, okay. Listen. I hope. Well, we're only 10 minutes short of what our time was. Don't forget, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern is the Torah study. The Sefer Shemot, a Parsha Shemot. And then Friday night, as usual, is Kabbalat and Ma'ariv Shabbat service at 8 p.m. Eastern. And on Shabbat at 10 a.m. Eastern, Shachrit and Musaf. Back here on
Monday?
Back here on Monday, David Zeta's Story Corner, and then right back here again on Tuesday for what we're trying to figure out now is which way we're going to go, because we got Richard said I'm with Donald, but Donald said either way. Donald, I think Richard was going with what Donald said. Reread the section. We'll go back and do the section over again. So I'm kind of thinking that's probably where we're going to do. We'll come back next week and we'll reread the whole first part of the Bahir.
Because they'll see the second time around, they'll have more questions.
Yes, hopefully. And hopefully we'll have our other monitor working, and I won't have to keep jumping back and forth to look at the chat room. So
Okay.
I thank everybody for being here. I'm going to turn you down for a moment here.
No.
Okay, so again, don't forget the rest of the other broadcasts and stuff. Hope to see you there. Until the next time, we're going to simply say, Laila Tov.